Okay, it looks like it's 5 o'clock, so we will call this meeting to order. A quorum is present. Today is August 7th, 2018. It is 5 p.m. This is a special call meeting of the Board of Trustees of Weatherford College. We're in the boardroom of the E.W. Mintz Administration Building located at 225 College Park Drive, Weatherford, Texas, to consider and to act on the following agenda. We've already been called to order, and so we're here to have a budget workshop. And so with that in mind, I will recognize.
Want to speak?
It's all you.
I want to thank you all for allowing me to present the 150th budget for this college. I was thinking the other night of all the challenges that lay before us, but I thought, you know, we don't have any challenges compared to what they had back in 1869, I'm sure. So,
Just different.
just very different, very different. Sometimes feel like the Indians are coming in on us, but
We need to circle the wagons.
looking at, there's several items that I want to touch on today, but I'm going to tell you right now, this is your budget workshop. It can last as long as you want to. I have 42 slides, but we can move as fast as you want to move or as slow.
All right, 1 second, please.
First, we want to look at the three main revenue sources and then review our expenditures, and then I want to touch on Weatherford College, Wise County. It's a balanced budget is presented as of August 7th. We have revenues and expenditures have increased $3,096,174 over last year at this time. We're going to talk later on where those increases have been. They're summarized on the sheet that you have here today. And as I will say, this budget is balanced as of today. We already have requests in to adjust, so I'm sure as of September 1, adjustments will be coming forward. You all have a copy, I think, before you of the summary we've got here, so if you can't see it, I can't enlarge it there. We do have those before you, I think. Total revenues have increased $2,628,000, or 4.86% over last year at this time. Our state appropriations have remained the same, being the second year of the biennium. Student aid has increased by $210,000, and that's due primarily to our subsidized loans, our Stafford subsidized loans. Everything else is pretty much flat with our Pell Grants. They did decrease over the last couple of years, but I think they're holding steady right now. Our operating grants have decreased by $63,000. There's not any one. We had several state grants that were in the workforce area last year that have come to an end. And so there's no major changes in any one area, just a little here and a little there. Tuition and fees have increased by $1,126,971, and that shows to be a 10.81%. We were up in our enrollments greatly last year, and we did not adjust for that at the time. So we have a 6% increase in rate increase for the coming year, plus the enrollment increase that we had over the last year. We have been a little slow recently with our enrollments. Our second summer, I think, was a little down. And so we did go back, and what I did, I took last year enrollments times our 6% increase that we adopted for the rate increase, and then I discounted it back down 3% overall. So we would be safe for the coming year, not knowing exactly, not having a total projection for that. Local taxes are estimated to increase by $870,000 due to an increase in Parker County property valuations. Now, I'll tell you right now, I have shown Wise County, and I'll talk about that later, flat, because I do not have the information from them. I was talking to the county auditor as of last week. She said they won't meet until the 13th, and they always request that I do not change those taxes until I have the information from them. Now, I'll show you further later on in the presentation where their effective tax rate is, what their rollback rate would be, and what those productions would be. Local funds other have increased by $240,000, and that's due primarily to $125,000 increase, and then that's in the maintenance and operation fund for interest rates on investments, and the interest rates are coming up, so we think we're going to do much better in that area, and a $57,459 increase in indirect cost revenue from WCWC. Now, that figure right there is also offset in expenditures for $57,000. They're coming into the main campus and going out of Wise County into our the main campus budget. So it's an in and an out. It's a net zero effect on the total overall budget. Auxiliary has increased by $89,510, and that's due to the increase in dorm and the meal plan cost. WCWC transfer from reserves has been increased by $140,000 overall, and we'll go into detail further with that. This is just a little graph here that I've shown, and that has to do with whether you can really see this or not. With the three main areas of this is all of our revenue sources. And looking at that, this first column there, 3 columns are our state appropriations, and they have held pretty flat. We've got a little bit of increase the last biennium, but not greatly. And that showed the adjustment from 3 years ago. It was adjusted state appropriations. It was not the before. The next one is student aid. Of course, that reflects our drop in student aid that there's been because of the federal government changes. The next one is our operating grants. They've decreased just slightly, and we did have several, as I mentioned earlier, state grants that played out at the end of this last year. Tuition and fees show to be up, and this is the first year in 4 years that the rest of it were enrollment increases. Any adjustments were made were based on enrollment. The next are local taxes, and our local taxes, based upon that, coming up this last year with your 7% increase that we received, it has gone up. The local funds other are just a little bit up, and that, once again, local funds other have to do with revenue from sales of instructional items, have to do with insurance for students, things like that, real estate rental. They also show right there is the indirect from Wise County is in that area.
Oh, okay.
And that's where that change is reflected right there. Auxiliary, just a little bit increase this year with the board rate going up. And then the construction fund, of course, is flat, and transfer from non-mandatory is up just a little bit. The next one reflects the percent of revenue by the 3 main sources that we have. Currently, we're at 44% for taxes. We are at 34% for tuition and fees, and 22% for proposed appropriations. That, over the years, when I first came here, we were looking at 70 or 80% at appropriation dollars from the state. It was a flip. Even over the 10 years, there really hasn't been that much adjustment, but it has dipped lower at times. The next one is not really that much, but this is how we go about figuring our appropriation split with the Wise County campus. And the first are Weatherford College based on contact hours. And so for Weatherford College, our contact hours for academic is 95.5% of our total contact hours versus the 4.5%, I believe, non-credit hours. And then Wise County is on 96.4 for academic, and then non-credit are 3.6%. If you'll move all the way over, the percentage of the whole is based on 89. Oh, I'm sorry. Very sorry. Didn't move forward. 89% is Wise County's, and 11% is shown from revenue from Wise County campus. Now, the 11% was based on the biennium, so that was 2 years ago. It was 11%. This last year, it moved up to 12.49% is what the indirect is figured on. But the biennium is set once every 2 years. So next year it will hopefully go up, I don't know, but it will change. The 85th legislative appropriation, it equates to a $534,000 reduction from the original 84th legislative appropriations that we received 2 years ago. And it is the same for this year. We are paying back that amount of money each year for 2 years ago. In the proposed budget, appropriations represent 22% of the major revenue sources as compared to 25% in 2009. So we've lost ground over the 10 years, definitely. Tuition and fees, net estimated tuition and fees are $11,556,000 and represent approximately 30% of the three major revenue sources, compared to in 2009, 32%. They've increased this year, and we did explain to you that the enrollment growth this last year is what caused that additional fund increase there. The increase in required exemptions is $172,000, and increase in TPEG transfers are $37,500. The next schedule is a historical schedule of tuition rates, as you can see here. Back 10 years ago, we were at $59 for in-district tuition. We've gone to $85. Out of district was at $85. We've gone to $132 at this point. Out of state, $131. We've gone to $187. Wise County was at $85 and it's gone to $104. In Granbury campus, $99 when we opened that campus up in 2011, and it's gone to $122. And I will, if you all are interested in a copy of this, I'll give this to you later so you won't have to. And I know you can't see this, but this is a schedule of the all Texas community colleges and how they rank in tuition and fees. We currently rank 38th in the state in being low in tuition and fees. This schedule, we for years tried to stay at an average increase, and then we have gotten behind in the last 4 years to try to get back up to that average, because every year the other schools have been raising theirs. And so there is a necessity, we feel like, at this time to stay up with it.
34 out of what?
38 out of 50 community colleges.
38 out of what?
50 community colleges in the state. Local taxes, local maintenance and operations revenue represents $16,661,000 on your summary sheet. This includes $13,728,000 from Parker County ad valorem property taxes, and that has a proposed increase, increase based upon not rate, but additional property values. And then $2,932,500 from the Wise County branch maintenance, and that's at the same figure that we budgeted for this last year. As I explained to you earlier, we will make an adjustment once Wise County tells us to. The total tax revenue equates to approximately 44% of the three major sources again, and in 2009 it was 43%. Going a little bit further on the Parker County ad valorem taxes, the property values for 2018 were certified on July the 16th, and the valuations increased by $803 million, $485,465 at a 6.8% increase. The 2018 new construction of $172 million is included in the total estimated taxable value. Frozen values of over 65 homestead have continued to increase, currently projected at $1,925,000. They were $1,700,000 last year. The tax rate has been projected at 0.11947. That's split up by 0.11399 maintenance and operation versus the 0.00548 interest and sinking, and that's an increase of 1.4% 44% over the effective rate of 0.11777. We feel like this is a sufficient rate to fund the estimated expenditures that we're presenting to you all today. It's a reduction from the 2017 rate of 0.11948. I would like to point out to you, if you can see, I know it's small, but it's pretty drastic, the difference. The blue is the state average as compared to Parker County average for the property tax rate here. So this last year, we were at 11,948. The state average was 18,057. This is an interesting for anyone to look at that may wonder when they get their tax bill exactly where all that money goes to. This is the split that we see in a property tax bill in Parker County. Weatherford ISD represents 56.7% of it, City of Weatherford 19.1%, Parker County 12.1%, Weatherford College 4.7%, the hospital district 4.3%, and the lateral road 3.1%. This also is another smaller one, but this is the tax valuation in comparison of all Texas community college, and we rank down as number 42 lowest in the state, as you can see. Very interestingly enough, many of the other colleges are very large colleges that are down there with us. We have Weatherford, Lone Star, Austin Community College, Houston, Hill is there, but Paris is there, but Collin and Blinn College are there with us. This is a tax rate analysis that I did for Dr. Farmer in looking at it and projecting what we would need. Our current rate sits at 11,948 for the 2017 rate. Our effective would have gone to 11,777. And then our increase is 11,947. If you'll notice, looking back over our debt service dropped just a little bit. So that has enabled us, our M&O was able to move up just a fraction because the debt service went down and we could still decrease just a little bit. And I just projected at a 7.99% under the rollback rate would have gone to 12,647. And the dollars that they would have generated, if you'll drop down to the bottom, if we had stayed at the effective, we virtually would have gone down 178,292 versus increasing 734,000 if it had gone to the rollback, right under the rollback rate. Moving to the Wise County, I'll discuss a little bit the information I've received from the Wise County for the branch maintenance tax. The total 2018 total taxable value for Wise County properties have been certified at $7,407,270,906. New improvements added since January total $172,467,000, and the 2018 frozen values of over 65 homesteads totals $371,439. The Wise County branch maintenance tax revenue is currently budgeted at $2,932,000. The tax rate for 2017 was 0.04614 and was budgeted at 98% collections. This year's effective tax rate has been calculated at 0.041002 and would produce $3,042,076. That would not, they always request that I show it at a 98% collection, just for being conservative, so it would not bring in the full $3 million. The rollback rate of 0.044282 and could produce income of $3,409,286. If you'll notice that the rollback rate is much less than what our current rate is, so we will have to go down, I'm certain, one way or the other. The administration will receive more information after August 13th as to the rate amount that Wise County Commissioners Court approve. Using the tax revenue that we brought in this last year, a transfer from reserves would be necessary in the amount of $597,000. If the Commissioners Court approves a rate just under the rollback rate of 0.44282, producing approximately $3,300,000, an additional $367,500 could offset the required transfer of $597,000, leaving a required transfer of $229,000. I want to move to expenditures very quickly, and I'm going to move pretty quickly here, and you stop me if you want to know more. Salaries, we've talked to you earlier this year. We did put a 3% increase in for everyone. It's split up. Administrative, $6 million. The salaries are $6,144,674. Instructional, $8,695,097. Classified salaries, $3,347,000. Sorry. And classified hourly, $115,225. Total salaries for the college are $18,302,989. A 3% on this would cost $498,684. New personnel in addition to this have been added to the budget that include 3 faculty, mathematics, psychology, and phlebotomy, and 1 faculty, associate degree nursing, was moved from grant funds to local. Virtually a new position for our local budget.
Okay.
2 assistant coaches, men's basketball and rodeo. 2 staff, student services, and human resources has been added to the budget. The next is a schedule showing salary increases over the last 10 years, and that's just for your information that I've provided that. Most of the time we've been able to give 3%. In 2014-15 we gave 3.75, and then there was little in 2011-12. 0 was given, but we did get a 2% bonus at Christmas time. In 2010-11, 2%. And then back in 2008-09, 3.5% of midpoint calculated by TASB. And that's what the 2%, those were the last 2 years that the TASB schedule was actually used. After that point in time, we went strictly back to a percentage raise. And at the bottom of that, I've shown proposed 3% increase in how much the instructional salaries cost, $235,000, or 47% of that increase. The administrative salaries, 34%. Classified salaries, 18%. Classified hourly, 1%. Those classified hourly are cafeteria workers, and they work on an hourly basis only. This schedule that I'm showing here is provided by the Texas Community College Teachers Association every year. And what it shows is the lowest actual salary versus the highest actual salary for faculty, and then the average salary, and then ranks them. And Weatherford College ranks number 35 on that schedule. There are different narratives that they look at on these schedules, but I thought this was it might be the most interesting for you all to look. I thought that was very interesting how we rank with our tuition and fees and taxes as compared to what the salaries are. And I think this
35 out of 50, does that salary include administrators? Is that?
These are faculty salaries. I haven't presented all salaries. I can do that later, but I don't. I just for your information here. Going into hopefully what we'll be doing this next year is looking at compensation studies, and this will just give you a little information of where we think we are right now in the beginning. Luckily this year our benefits, our group health and retirement costs have remained constant with only a minimal increase in the group health. They bid it out last year, and so the second year of the bid they really didn't. It's just minimal. They just adjusted some of them just a tiny bit. This one right here was just what it actually costs you only. The premium is $624,000 and the state pays $624, I'm sorry. The state pays $624. For you and family, the premium is $1,820, the state pays $1,222, and you pay $597,000, the employee does. In our supplies, they total $612,000 for administrative supplies in this year's budget, and we had an increase put in there of $12,920 over 2017 now in this budget. Instructional supplies total $307,000, which is a $53,000 increase over the 2017-18. Travel is very minimal increase, $408,000. It's been increased by $11,650. Equipment totals $641,000. That's an increase of $41,000 over the 2017-18 budgeted equipment. The equipment budget includes a contingency dollars of $250,000. We did lower that figure from the prior year. It had been $300,000 for the last several years, but a great deal of those funds were spent for computers, and now we're scheduling computer leases over the next coming year, so we're not purchasing as many. So our contingency dollars is left for other equipment that may expire during the year that we can no longer use, or things that come up. Other equipment budgeted throughout the budget represents new equipment of $391,000. The major additions to the budgeted equipment is $91,000 for a new security camera system at the dorms, and $59,000 for an ultrasound machine, and $26,000 for a respiratory and airway lung simulator. I might add, as this works out, I believe Arlene's not here. That's but $59,000 and the $26,000 were brought in by will be paid for by Perkins Funds.
That's good.
The next slide is on our technology operating budget. Of course, this major budget cost drivers for this year are the new ERP system, the Lucian colleague implementation, and the training of $1,120,000 as presented, plus $50,000 reserved for outside resources if needed. Annual capital lease payments of $70,000 for network switches, $43,000 for wireless access points, and $39,000 for a lab virtualization project. The next schedule.
No idea what that was.
The next schedule shows those dollars spent out of the technology department that's dispersed throughout the whole college budget into different office areas, such as software licensing and maintenance of $98,000, capital equipment $91,000. That's the security camera for the dorms. Software licensing of $86,000, leases and equipment. That's the employee computer lease program of $58,000. Software licensing and maintenance for financial software, $52,700. Software licensing and maintenance Canvas learning management system, $49,433. The capital equipment Perkins grant technology cost. Software licensing and maintenance OCLC World Share Management System plus the EC Proxy, $29,676. Software licensing and maintenance Turnitin annual subscription, $26,000. And equipment technology equipment contingency of $20,000 for a total $543,000 that's outside of the main technology budget, just dispersed in individual budgets. Maintenance, operations, and major repair. CBRE contract was increased by 3% with a budget of $2,038,207. Virtually, that was an increase of $61,000. The major repair and rehabilitation has been budgeted at $600,000, but at this point in time, we only have $92,000 that have actually been approved at this point to get ready. There's an additional $100,000 request that's been made at this time for library remodeling project, but it has not been approved at this point. Also, go ahead, Sue.
Is that the stuff at the top? The
Yes, that's for the railings,
Right.
that, for the second story.
Okay.
Did they ever do anything about the elevator?
No, we did have drawings, we went to bid, and it was very expensive, and it was put on the back burner. So, we will be considering that $100,000 request and getting, I just got preliminary drawings on that to get me a figure of what it would cost, so we'd have to get further drawings on that done. But the rest of it will remain, the $400,000 for other additional needs that we have, whatever we're going to do at the other campuses here to remodel. And so I feel pretty good about that figure. This is up $100,000 over last year. Scholarship projection for the coming year increased by $16,690, and that basically was increased for your tuition rate increase and also the increase in the board rates. There were no additional scholarships given or anything like that. This is our debt service. It's pretty well, it's very close to where we were last year at this time. It increased just slightly at $13,000. I wanted to talk, everybody, we talk a great deal about unrestricted reserves. I think several chief financial officers in the state, there's a lot of buzz going around right now about this unrestricted fund balance. Each college basically figures that on their own. The CPA or the auditors don't normally want to do that because that's basically us coming back to you and telling you this is the amount of money that could be spent on buildings or any other thing that you would authorize to do. So it's very hard. That's figuring what monies are available without of the regular operations to you. So I haven't really been able to get a financial auditor to hand me a letter like they used to many years ago. They'd give you a letter stating that amount of money. So we go back and conservatively figure this, and we've done it for the last several years, but I took it back to 2015 so you could see a little bit what we've done here. And in 2015, we showed $1,037,000 in unrestricted funds. That was before we started building the buildings. This last year in 2017, with figuring our policy is right now is to withhold back 20% of the ensuing fiscal year budget, and then we restrict the Wise County campus money out of it and do not show any of that as unrestricted funds. We also pull out the auxiliary funds for Wise County, and also the land that the Carter property. We pull out that fund balance out of it because that's not cash that's sitting there, and otherwise it's basically coming down to a cash balance is what it's doing for you all. So in the past couple of years, we had 2 years ago, I believe, GASB 68 required by the state to implement, and that was for the liability on teachers' retirement and optional retirement for all of our employees that had never been figured before and never been required to put on the individual college books. It was a liability of the state. Well, all of a sudden, the federal government came out with GASB 68 and said, well, you will now put that on the liability of the college. It's not any money that will be spent more than likely ever, but they've cost us, I mean, they've told us we have to show that as a liability. And everybody was really concerned at that point in time when we did that, because many of the colleges, their financials couldn't withstand that, you know, and coming down to their fund balance. And so, talked to a lot of bond rating companies and all that, and they said, well, it's written up in footnotes that we understand that this has been done. This does not affect the financial viability of your college, truly, at this point in time. And so they're considered. Well, now GASB 75 is coming down, and we've got to implement that at the end of this year. And we don't even have a firm figure yet. It's going to be astronomical for the health and any other employee benefits that we have out there. And so all the chief financial officers are talking from now on. They think we're going to have to get away from telling you all, okay, this is the unrestricted fund and more of a cash balance report. This is what we have in unrestricted cash at this point. So I don't know, I can't tell you exactly the figure that we're going to be hit with, but it's going to be big at the end of this year. So we're showing the $6,055,000. It could come back. It could make that look zero, but it's just a footnote in the audit. It will have to be explained in the audit very carefully that the cash balance is still what it is, but the state has put that liability a little bit on the college, but they have the funds in their hands. So I wanted to be sure for y'all to realize that was out there. Any questions? Did that even hardly make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Morlap?
Oh, wait.
I've got a couple of.
Okay, good.
On our investment income,
Mhm.
what are we basing the interest rate on?
I think we're right at 1.88, hoping we can do a little bit better than that,
So-
but
so
we're trying to be
We can
conservative.
expect that to increase based on what I know and what I see. I mean, if you're getting 2.5 now, that ought to be better. That's good news for us.
Right, absolutely.
And
I'm
we-
going to come to you all too and ask to go to a text pool fund, that it's a pooling of funds from all the schools in the
Sure.
state, that I'll be able to, instead of keeping so many of the 30-day CDs like we used to do. And they're getting an average of about 1.7 on their funds. So,
We used to have a grant writer. Do we have a grant writer anymore?
no, we truly don't.
Would it be in our interest to look for that if our grant funds are going down? Would it be worth the investment in the salary to have a grant writer that can research and look for places to get extra money? I mean, just a question.
To respond to that.
I'll respond to that. I think a lot of colleges and universities are moving away from the cost associated with a full-time grant writer, and they're privatizing that service with some
Okay.
experts. Dr. Atkins is probably familiar with some of that. I don't know if you want to speak to that or not.
We've used consultants in the past with Title III and some of our federal grants. Now we've got various individuals working on grants. Hayden Harpold in continuing ed. I do Perkins grants. It's right now it's not centralized at the college, but it's not. Kay Landrum does TRIO, so we're still pursuing grants. It's not centralized.
Well, I mean, I fully understand, from my previous time on the board, there's a lot of grants that have a lot of strings attached to them, that they look good for a year or two, and then you're looking at paying for it yourself out of the next 3 or 4 years, and those are not always cost efficient. But what is our bond rating?
The bond rating, it's A negative, I believe,
A.
is what we are.
And it's hard for me to imagine how the state, but I think the state likes to look at public schools and community colleges and say, well, if you have this much money in reserves, we're going to cut your tax rate by this. It appears to me that it would be hard for the state to determine how much money you really have if everybody has a different definition of unrestricted fund balance. Is that?
It is difficult. You know, every college, community college is an entity in itself, and it's very difficult to compare one to the next with the number of, you know, students, and their tax bases are so different, and multiple different things. I will say that.
And I would like to let the press know that Weatherford College, as you can tell from these charts, is one of the most cost-efficient community colleges in the state. And what the state legislature will do to us is penalize us by taking more money away from us because we're cost-efficient and giving it to community colleges that are not cost-efficient, whenever it should be the reverse, and we should be rewarded for being cost-efficient, and tell those other community colleges, when you start doing what Weatherford College is doing, you get more money. And I know they're not all the same geographically, and I fully understand every bit of that, but I have fought this thing for years that it's not fair for us to sit here and do the best job we can, and we do a great job of educating our cost per dollar per student, cost of education. But where's the incentive to keep doing it if you're going to be penalized for it? It's just not right. And then I think I would like to see another figure, and I'm saying this in defense of our administrative staff. I don't think I have seen our administrative staff grow hardly at all. And I think sometimes educational institutions there's this misconception that there's a bunch of fat cats at the top getting money and not doing very much work. And I would like to see how we compare to the other community colleges in terms of what percent do we spend on administrative, because I think it'll be surprising, and I think the people that pay taxes would like to know the good job that we're doing here, because we are. And the other thing I wanted to point out that I noticed, when you say that Weatherford College is 38th up there, you can go ahead and take Dallas, San Antonio, Tarrant, and Houston, because they don't count, because they have such an incredibly large tax base that trying to put us with them is apples and oranges. So really, if you look at it from a realistic point of view, we're probably more in the 40s than we are in the 30s. And I'll shut
Well,
up.
we truly are. We're number 42, the lowest
Yeah.
in the state on the taxes, I believe.
Now, I did have one more question. In the 48% local, 38% tuition, and 22% state, is that about average?
I haven't got the figures from this year, but we were about on average last year.
I mean,
when
we
looked
obviously
at it.
have colleges that we think we're comparable to.
Mhm. We were very close, you know. It just, you know, state funding is just very, very low at this point in time.
Okay.
Quick question, you had mentioned text pool just briefly. Can you kind of elaborate what that is? I'm sorry.
Well, that's a investment group. They lump all of the college's funds together and have investors for that.
And they have a strong track record of-
conservative fund basis.
Okay.
And I'll be explaining that more when I come. It may be September
Okay.
before I come to y'all and
Thanks.
give
I
you
did.
back.
I did have one more question. What is our interest rate on our bonded indebtedness?
Of different amounts.
Okay, well, the only reason I'm asking is, you know, would it be in our best interest to refinance
We've
before the
done,
rates go up?
as far as the college's funds, we've refinanced them nearly all in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay, good.
Wise County is the one that has not been refinanced, but that's not as a bond on our books. That's
Sure.
on the county's books. But our we've gone back and redone the dorm. We have 3, I believe, and so we've gone back and redone all those and saved a great deal on those already. Okay. Any other questions? And I'll write that down, Roger, and we'll get that information back for you on the administrators and any other things that anybody, because pretty much that's the college as a whole, a picture of it. I was going to go touch on briefly some Wise County things for Dr. Marlette. He had mentioned last time that he wanted to see more detail on Wise County. So I'll move on if y'all are ready.
That'd be good.
Back up a little Our Wise County budget at this point in time amounts to $5,962,635. That's $189,581 increase. It will have to be
Increase from what?
from the prior year, 2017-18.
All right.
We will adjust this once Wise County Commissioners give us the rate that they're going to approve, and whatever adjustments that may be in that local tax area there. This summary that I'm giving you here is a separate, that we pull all the Wise County campus accounts out of our full budget, and we summarize it in this one.
Is there a copy of it in this?
No, but I've got it for you. I'll give it to you. I don't think we've got it running this. I asked for them to do it this afternoon, and I'll give it to you.
When can I have a copy?
You can have it right now, if I can put my hands on it. I say I have it. Here we go. Around? Thank you, I'm sorry. And the reason I did, and I sent the total budget out to you today, and it shows the Wise County accounts incorporated into the full budget. But when we send the Commissioners Court, we pull all those Wise County campus accounts out, send them a financial that just looks like Wise County with that summary attached to it. But that's pulled out of the full budget that you all see as the full college.
Is all the room you need? This is several copies of the same thing.
It's the same thing. I made one for everyone. If you want to pass it out to everyone, Teresa.
Sorry, I didn't remember.
No, it's just one page for
For
everyone.
everybody, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Let me find the best one.
And this is what I have up here on the screen now. So, looking at this, I'll let you get them in your hands.
Thank you.
I showed you earlier how we have allocated the money from appropriations. The appropriation dollars is in the second year of the biennium, so it remains the same over last year. There was just a small adjustment in the amendment at the beginning of the year, and I cannot recall at this time what that was, but tuition and fees were increased by $64,000 due to an increase in tuition rates. And once again, I did the same thing for Wise County. I took the revenue that was generated from rates, multiplied it by the 6% for the rate increase, and then decreased it for an estimate of 3% discount on that. Is what we budgeted and came up with a $64,000. Local taxes are proposed are based on the 2017 rates and valuations. The transfer from reserves necessary to balance the proposed budget for 2018-19 is $597,245, which you can see at the bottom of that first column there.
Say that again.
$597,000.
No, not the figure.
Okay.
What is that number?
That's your transfer from reserves that's required to balance the budget. That's the shortfall in revenue from state appropriations, tuition and fees, local taxes, auxiliary funds, debt service, and any of your revenue items. So that's the shortfall that it takes to balance the budget to the expenditures that are budgeted at this point in time.
Okay.
Now, I will point out right now, and I'll show you a little bit further, just because we budget that full amount. Last year we budgeted $456,000 a transfer, because at that time, from what the budget looked like, it looked like we're only going to have to actually transfer. This is a budget, let me remind you. We're only actually going to have to transfer an estimated $95,000 instead of the $456,000. So that's a real savings. So whether it will be, we don't transfer it until year end, but we get approval from you all to say that we can if we have to. So over the years, I don't know that we've ever had to transfer every dollar out of there. 95,000, and I've got a more detailed printout for you, Dr. Marlette, showing all of our revenues and all of our expenditures here, so you can see where we're
What
up.
do you estimate that to actually be for 18-19?
Sir, for 18-19.
It was 456,906, but it actually was 95,000.
Right.
You're putting down.
I'm putting down 597,000.
97,245, but how much do you estimate that would actually be?
It's hard till the year
I
gets
know it is.
started.
but
I mean,
that's
I'd have to.
That's your business, though. Give me a ballpark.
Well, if I have to look over the prior years, probably 250, 300,000.
Why the difference between one year and the next year, that much difference? It's
Because the
300%.
the lease went up 70,000. That's one thing. Utilities have gone up. There's several items that I'm going to explain later in here when I touch on expenditures. In fact, my next item, the major changes in expenditures are a rent increase of 69,400. The indirect costs are proposed at 5% of administrative cost of $1,275,000 for a total budgeted amount of $520,000.
I don't have that sheet.
Okay. I do in this proposal, and I'll give you a copy of it when we
When
finish
do I
up.
get a copy?
Well, you can have a copy right now if you'd like.
Please. Now,
And anyone else can have it right now too. I just thought we'd be better off discussing and then handing the printout
That
later.
was Jim Boyd's way. He wouldn't let you have a handout till he got through talking.
Let me just go ahead and pass them out. And I just did have eight run off for the board for these. And if you'll turn to page, I'll get the page number once we.
are you giving us a copy of this?
Yes, sir, that's yours. I'm giving it to you now.
This is what you sent me earlier, and I just haven't run it off on my print machine.
Thank you.
No, what I sent to you earlier was the full college budget. The full budget in itself. This is the
66
present.
pages.
Okay,
This is not this.
no.
No, I didn't print it.
And you don't have to. You can use it off of your, you can review it off of your tablet if you'd like to.
Oh, I know I can do that. I'm just wondering, what's in the 66 pages that's not in this?
Well, this is just the individual budget.
Is that the 66?
Yes, Well, this shows to be 38 some odd. I don't know what.
Is it front and back?
No.
Well,
It
okay.
different,
Maybe
when you
my
print out
machine-
in different ways, they've got it shown in this,
Maybe my
notebook.
machine didn't count it properly. But
And-
anyway, it said 66.
and that's what I'm showing here on mine. It's small print, 39 of 39, 39 pages.
So we are not getting a hard copy of what was sent out. Or these things constitute our.
I'll give you my hard copy to go tonight if you want it. I'll get another one run if you'd like for it to have the
That'd be
hard
good.
copy, okay? I'm glad to. Okay, the indirect costs equate to an increase of 57,000. And I will say right now, let's go ahead and look on page 41 of that. Or we'll go to 40. Okay. We used the contact hours from the prior year, for the prior full fall 2017, for contact hours to 17-18 to figure the contact hours percentage allocation. And it comes up to contact hours, Wise County contact hours are 12.2545%.
That's not, I'm just confused by you saying Wise County, it's really Weatherford College, Wise County.
It is. It's
Okay,
WCWC, I'm
for
sorry.
some
I'm
other
sorry.
reason we're doing that.
Okay.
Now, what, you're talking about percentages, I don't see percentages.
Percentage on page 40,
Yes, ma'am, I've got.
okay, at the very bottom,
Oh, there's the
WCWC percent,
There's the percent.
12.2545.
Is
That's
what?
the percent of contact hours that Weatherford College, Wise County, generates out of the total 100% contact hours here at the college.
12%.
There's total WC contact hours of 2,658,000, and 12.25% is Wise County.
Have you processed that in terms of what that costs per contact hours in terms of budgeted to that college?
I don't have that.
That would be
I
really-
can certainly
would be
do that.
useful, very useful to us to know what we actually have our expenses relative to per contact
good-
hours, relative to other, maybe the whole, relative to Glen Rose, relative to Mineral
Okay.
Wells, relative
Okay.
to the main campus.
I'll do that for you.
Please.
And so the percentage is 12.25 but we, over the last 3 years, have dropped that down to 5%. On page,
Is that, you dropped that
okay,
percentage
on
to
page
5%?
42,
Okay.
it talks about the indirect cost and historically how we've charged it. And it shows for the last 3 years, we dropped it to a flat 5% and not using the contact hours in order to try to help Wise County's budget. So if you figured the calculation based on contact hours, that rate would be at $1,275,000 that would be necessary to fund the indirect, but we're only charging $520,000. So that's a $755,000 difference calculated for the negotiated rate of 5%.
As opposed to what?
$1,275,640.
$1 million, what?
$275,540, and that's shown at the bottom of page 41, Dr. Marlett.
Based on the $1,275,000 is based on what?
The 12.25%, the real
Well,
number.
The
Right?
12%.
Yeah.
Okay.
So over the years, that calculation has changed in trying to work with Wise County. So it has
Right.
been figured in different ways. I'll admit that, right?
How much is Glen Rose paying in indirect costs?
Glen Rose.
Glen Rose is not in our.
We don't have a budget for them. Wise County, I mean, we have classes that are possibly taught with Glen
You mean
Rose. is
Granbury?
my-
I mean,
Yeah, you're
Granbury.
talking about
Granbury,
Wrong town.
Granbury.
That's 20 miles, 24 miles off.
That's close enough that we know what you're talking about.
We hope we will get to this point with our new ERP system, but at this point in time, Granbury is still kept as, we still keep all appropriations, everything is kept in, and we pay the cost out of Weatherford College. There is no branch maintenance tax there, so there's no tax levy, so that's kept.
So they pay no indirect costs.
None.
We have figures, though, that I can provide you for Granbury and Mineral Wells later. I can do that and show you
Oh,
what
and
they're.
Mineral Wells doesn't pay any either, is that correct?
Well, they're in
They're in
Parker
They're
County,
in Parker
but we
County.
do have an indirect cost of that program over there. But they are in Parker County.
Well, you can see what I get
I do not want you to pass that.
No, I'm not.
from the commissioner's court.
I'm done with that.
Who else is paying indirect cost?
Well, we do
Well,
on
no,
our,
I-
excuse me,
I
sir.
heard you,
I'm sorry.
I heard you. And so that gives me a basis for responding.
Okay.
That comes out.
But when we go back to figure a separate cost, when Dr. Farmer asks us for a cost report on them, we do apply an indirect rate to see if it were a separate entity, but the way we've been handling theirs, it's not. We don't have a branch maintenance tax coming in to help support it. So there's no funds available there really that's paid out of. But we hope to get, I mean, with the new ERP system, a lot of this, our ERP system doesn't support the finite calculations that we have to do, and a lot of it has to be done manually now, and it takes a lot of time. More questions? More?
Anything else, Robert? Okay.
This is a little information for you all, just to see where the Wise County tax dollars go that are brought in. Basically, if the effective rate of .041002 were used, and that effectively is supposed to bring in the same amount of money that we collected during this last year's operations, this last year budget year, we would be bringing 2,717,338. Insurance costs are $67,500. That lease payment is budgeted at the 98% too, that we actually, she asked me to use. So insurance costs are $67,500 for the facility, liability, whatever. Maintenance costs are $299,940, and utility cost $182,000. So total, it's a negative figure that we have left at that point for any other services or any other instructional, any other campus services at that point. So all of Wise County's branch maintenance tax, that's how it is used right there. If we went to the, just under the rollback rate, I'm sorry, and it would be bringing in $3,105,000, and your lease payment would be $2,717,338. Your insurance is $67,500, all the same, and that would total remaining for, it would still be a negative figure for remaining for other services. So I would definitely hope that we, could remain at that, just under that rollback rate. I would hope that the commissioners, in order to keep that budget, that balance transfer from being the 597, that would also help reduce it. That would probably almost, if I gave you an estimate that hopefully we could be at year end at 250,000, 300,000, if we could go to this, we would almost make the difference if they could go, where we almost could be flat at year end. But for our budget, I have to be more safe and secure in projecting out there and ensure that it's not, end of year is not going to be totally flat. I mean, that just doesn't happen in a budget.
Sure. I have a question. If I drove to Decatur and attended a commissioner's court meeting with this page 39 that shows the tax rate,
There.
and if I were allowed to ask a question, I would say, could you explain to me, as a member of the college board, the rationale for dropping that tax rate from 5 even to where it is? I would ask them to explain that to me. Have they explained that to you? Why it was dropped? The tax rate, because in 2008 it was 0.5, and then in 2010 it was dropped to 462, .0462. What was the rationale for that? Have you ever,
You're getting into the politics of the county.
I sure am.
And well, those things
Think we
come up
all
all
should.
the time. They're discussed endlessly, those kinds of things.
Has anybody ever clarified that to you?
Yes, I mean, just that, that's what it is. It's a subjective kind of thing in terms of who's running for election and who wants to get reelected and what the tax rates are gonna be and how much, we've got increase in county valuations and how much that's gonna reduce the tax, and how much we need to reduce that tax rate, and how much can we get away with doing that, and then there's some of us who say we don't need to reduce it at all, but, you're just one voice and doing that kind of thing. When this was all done a year or two ago, it was agreed, I don't know by whom, because I wasn't sitting on the committee, but that there would be an independent audit established. You're aware of that. That was discussed at the time. Well, this year, they're wanting an independent audit. And,
Of what?
What?
Of what?
Of all of this. And
Well,
so, where Weatherford College's expenses and how it relates, the Wise County campus, how it relates to Weatherford College's main campus. There are informed people all over the world and in both of these counties. And there are people who have legitimate questions, and there are some of those that are not so informed and not so educated questions. That's just the way it is. And the more we can get the actual facts, and if it takes 14 audits to get the actual facts and convince some hardheads that this is the way it is, not the way they think it ought to be, then that's what we need to do. There's wonderful people on all sides of this. There are wonderful people who want a clear operating agenda.
Okay, I don't mean to take us down a rabbit hole, but.
Well, there's not
It would be interesting to hear any answer they might give me to that question, but thank you, sir.
You're certainly
That's-
welcome to
thank you.
come over and ask that question.
I might, I just
Well,
might.
that'd be good.
I'll have to take.
Yeah, I can't drive.
It appears to me that county auditor, we need to go visit the county auditor to see if we're doing exactly the same computations that he's doing to come up with. Does that make sense? And,
It's an answer
and
for
try
me.
to, as much as we can, put it on a piece of paper to explain to the commissioners. I know they'd be
I'll be
glad
glad
to
to
do
do
that.
anything that I'm asked to do, and I've just tried to, we've done this as a college entity and provided back to them copies of our annual budget for Wise County things alone, their expenses. And to my knowledge, now we have an audit every year that all of our records are reviewed. And for accuracy and to whether they're charged to the right budgets and all that. So that's done on an annual basis. But whatever they would like to review, I'd be more than glad to provide that.
The best thing we can do for Weatherford College in regards to Wise County is have this man sit in on the board meetings and be able to go and let them know what we voted on, what we decided on, because you're a tremendous asset
Yes,
up there
definitely.
for us.
I don't know about that.
Well,
Okay.
But anyway.
it's a lot better to have somebody sitting here representing Wise County than it is for Wise County for us to sit here and mandate what we think you ought to do. A lot of people get pretty stubborn when we get.
I agree, and I'd like to comment on Dr. Marlette's statement about there being excellent people on both sides of this issue. And we want to provide our friends and partners in Wise County with the objective, accurate, independently auditable information and communicate that effectively. And I welcome and applaud that independent audit because I do believe that it will substantiate the documents that we have here, and it will bring to light this conflict over indirect costs. Is really irrelevant when we look at the slide that's currently displayed, when the amount of tax revenue that's coming in from Wise County does not even pay for the facility and the associated expenses of the facility itself, much less what is historically the largest expense of any college or university, which is the labor costs. We have direct costs associated with Dr. O'Meara, Becky Bird, and all of the instructional faculty and staff that work at that campus that aren't even included in this particular number. So when we add those costs into this particular slide that's currently displayed, that $161,000 in the red will substantially grow to hundreds of thousands of dollars in the red before we even get to indirect costs. And so again, I echo Dr. Marlette's compliments of the fine people, our partners and our friends in Wise County, and I want to work with them to provide them with objective, factual information that can be independently audited and answer any questions that they might have so that we can work collaboratively together to help Wise County to continue to grow and continue to be successful.
Here, here, thank you for that.
Well, this has gone, we've come a long ways in the last year, I think, in terms of healing some problems and issues. And I think this would be probably the last, I'm assuming, I'm hoping, it's the last question. No, that's
That is
have.
good to hear. That's good.
Okay, you know, and to get, and establish a confidence that doesn't necessarily, could be, but doesn't necessarily have to be verified occasionally.
And it was this board, although I wasn't on it, but I strongly supported the movement to add you to this board. We felt that way.
Well, I'm nothing
Not
on
necessarily
this
you.
board,
We didn't know it was gonna be
but
you.
It's not, this is not a matter, and I don't mean you're meaning that either. It's not a matter of me, it's just a matter of the concerns.
Sure,
of some-
representation.
Of some folks.
Absolutely.
And I think we can settle this.
Amen.
As do I.
As do I.
And I will always welcome an audit. I have there's additional work that will go into it, but I welcome one if I've never been concerned of going through a financial audit here.
And I want to say, I think the long-term benefits of Weatherford College having a campus up there are a wonderful plus for the future growth in that area. And when I was previously on this board, I went into the Wise County campus with, I'm all for it, but they've got to pay their own way. Well, I have had to step back and look at it from an investment perspective, and maybe it doesn't have to pay its own way, but we would like to see it get closer more than going back in terms of support.
Well, what we would like, or I personally would like, in order to be a representative, is to have more information about what it would take to make it pay for itself. There's been some, I don't know how deep research has been done, but anyway, examination of other community colleges our size, and that usually, it is usually the case that the mother college, the satellite schools, colleges or campuses really almost never pay their way. That it's the larger college that does that.
That's
But I don't think that, whether that's true or not, whether that's a good stat or not, we would like to pay our way. And that we need to know the mechanisms after we finally get rid of this hellacious interest rate we pay. We like to figure out and start now, is that more students? Do students pay for themselves?
Absolutely.
I said, we don't really know, I don't really, you know those answers, I don't really know those answers very clearly. I've been discussing that with some of you lately, and I'm getting really good information. But how is it, we need to create over there, create a kind of master plan to figure out what the road is to paying our own way in. Because I have suggested a couple of courses over there, and the first thing I've said is it must pay for itself. So is that what, will that solve the problem other than this interest rate, you know, what? Well, one of the things we have to do is put some more money and get probably into the system, but lots of luck. Tax-wise, you know. But there are other ways to skin the cat, I think. You tell me.
Appreciate that.
Anything else, Dr. Marlowe? Dr. Cantrell, you're back on.
I think we'll move to 43 right now, and we've talked about those others. At this point in time, I'm estimating that our actual reserve fund for Wise County alone will be $396,451.25. That's not, it can't be exact because we're only estimating our cost for August right now. But it's as close as we can get at this point. Versus the original budget showed that 35,000, and this is next year, I'm sorry. At 8/31/18, we will have 993 versus the original budget that showed 632,000. Then we budget a 597,000 for this coming year, leaving for the 18-19 would be at 8/31/19 would be 396,000 versus the 35,000 that we originally had thought.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. It's better.
Yes.
Other things I just wanted to touch on, additional unforeseen costs that may be associated with the ERP. We're meeting very weekly now with the project management, trying to get a handle on how we're going to be implementing this thing. And Greg's done monumental work in keeping us all together. We have a steering committee that's meeting weekly, and how this thing will unfold and who will be responsible for each department when those things will come about. So that's a concern, and these have to do with the whole budget. The Granbury campus is still a question. I have put some funds in there for a lease if we had to, as a contingency, if we had to move or anything like that. Compensation study, talking with Relinda in HR, she's going to be hit very hard at the beginning of the year, January, with the ERP implementation. And when I talked to her about a compensation study, she said, Andrew, I don't know if we can do both at one time. So what we plan to do is next spring, do some legwork, finding out, looking at companies and doing things like that, and working with them to get some preliminaries done. So I have put in $25,000 right now for a compensation study. Not that will take care of all of it, but the next year's budget will be when full implementation of a compensation study. And then also professional development. We have $100,000 added for professional development in this. It hasn't been totally allocated out in all departments, but we will be meeting as to how those funds will be allocated. And then I mentioned to you the GASB 68 and 75 unrestricted reserve fund impact already that concerns me, and I wanted you all to be aware of that. That's all I have for tonight, but I entertain any questions that you have, and I'm anxious to answer them. And yours too, Dr. Marlette, very anxious. And I do have, Dr. Marlette, and anyone that would like to see, I do have the statement of revenues estimated for 8/31/18 for Wise County, so you can see that a little bit closer detail, because I know those summaries that we've been giving, that's a college as a whole, and so it does not show Wise County separately, so we'll start attaching these, and I was going to go ahead and give them to you tonight.
Good, thank you.
Thank you all. Any other
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for anybody?
When might we get that, contact hour cost broken?
I'll go back and work, I'll try to have it by Thursday ready for you. Now, tell me again specifically, the cost per contact hour?
Yes, what is each contact hour costing?
Okay.
Over against.
You're
what it
saying
brings
what,
in.
the Wise County campus, take all of the costs
And
divided by the contact hours.
Relative to the main campus and relative to the others.
That's-
Okay,
that's what I
and
understood.
whether I can get all of that done by Thursday, but I'll have your figure for the Wise County for sure. I'm gonna try to go back and review.
So what a contact hour brings in as compared with what it costs.
Now,
To
his
deliver.
cost, okay,
Yes, what it brings in.
okay. I'll have to go to Lee and work with him on that, those contact hours, just to specifically see which contact hours have been figured in. I've got my contact hour appropriation dollar that we allocated to you all, but
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'll provide more on Thursday.
thank you.
Okay, well, Dr. Cantrell, I appreciate your presentation tonight. It's complicated, but I feel like that from a budget standpoint, I think things are going to be a little bit clearer this year for a lot of reasons. And, well, I really do.
Yes, sir.
And,
Yes.
and I think an independent audit, Dr. Marlette, is definitely called for. That's been discussed, it's just never been scheduled and done. And I think the board, from what I can tell, I don't think that's ever been a contentious topic as far as getting it done, as far as I remember.
Could I ask a question? Do you want one that's an expanded, we have an independent financial auditor that does an audit on the college as a whole. Do you want one provided by them? I think they do the audit on us and on Wise County. And to expand it to more detailed into the specific questions that you all have to have answered?
I can
Or-
answer that better in a couple of days.
Okay.
Well, and I appreciate that, because I think the key word is independent. And I want everybody to,
We're gonna give validity to it.
it needs to be whatever independent means to Wise County and everybody else. And to me, it's just something that I don't think it needs to in any way be possibly manipulated. That's just not going to work, and we're not going to accept anything that's not independently, properly, certifiably audited. So we'll quit talking about it at some point and get it scheduled and get it done. And I think it's also good to look at all the numbers that are in Wise County and what their concerns are. I don't think there's any problem with concerns, but I really do feel like that numbers are gonna tell us the answer. I don't think we're gonna have you can dispute what the answers might be, and you might have to factor in your point of view, but really, hopefully we can all have the same point of view about what we're trying to accomplish here. I truly believe that we need to try to accomplish, if you're gonna participate, you're gonna pay and make it pay where the service is being rendered. And because I think, as far as I understand, in most of these academic settings, that's really what the goal is, and that's what's done successfully, if it's going to be a successful operation over the years. Am I wrong about that, Dr. Foreman?
No, sir, and I believe we can make that happen with our friends and partners in Wise County.
Yeah. So,
Well, one of the things that I share
Uh-huh.
with those who, in Wise County that I'm discussing these things with is that in my experience in dealing with the mother campus administration is that it couldn't be more positive and more willing to work with, and that everything is how can we do it, not why this won't work. And that's really good to have that as a base. If we can clear out this other thing and clear that base a little more than it is, success breeds success. And if we can put that campus on a success footing, even while it's in this debt mode, it means we have enough communication in the county, I think, to get that out to the voters, to say this is a shining example of success that's developing, and they would be far more likely to support tax issues in the county, as obviously. And so.
Well, we've also got a higher, I think we have a higher burden to look at here. We were statutorily put together in this district, and so we are obligated to serve the district, and I don't think I think the goal is to make sure that what the legislators put together for us several years ago, that we carry out their directions. We've got an obligation, and I think that's our goal. I don't think that's ever changed, but we can get better at it. And so all the people that are in the district have the right to be served well and properly. That's certainly, I don't think that we're going to argue about that here. I don't think. So anyway, with that, is there anything else we need to talk about? Have we gotten down to the point where we can, if I can find my little sheet of paper. We're down to agenda item number 3, unless somebody tells me differently, that says adjourn. Is there a motion is there a second that we adjourn?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's approved unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you again, Andrew.